Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. This is Lil, and I'm really excited to dive into part 2 of our topic, how to choose a nutrition plan that's actually going to work for you, that you're actually going to be able to stick with. Now, before we dive in, just a reminder, if you can subscribe to this episode, leave me a review, share it with a friend, I would appreciate that so much. I can't believe how much this podcast is growing, and it's because of people like you who are continuing to tune in, and I appreciate it so much. Okay, so we're going to cover quite a bit in this episode. I'm still going to try to keep it around 20 minutes because I know you're busy, and here we go. So we are talking about how to choose a nutrition plan that works for you. Now, the same way that we talked about choosing a fitness plan, we're talking about the logistics. Actually, how are you going to follow through and make sure that you can stick with a way of eating? And is it a realistic plan that works for your life? So I'm going to warn you, you may get annoyed with me because you may just want people to tell you what to do. You may think that someone just feeding you a meal plan and saying, eat this, don't eat that, is the way to go. But just like that old adage of, catch a fish for someone, feed them for one meal, teach someone to fish, they can feed themselves for a life. That's the approach that we're taking. Sometimes taking the time to educate yourself, to learn, to give yourself pause to figure out what actually works for you, and not just rushing into things. That can be how you actually figure out what works for you, instead of diving in and out of fad diets, thinking that, this, that, or the other thing is finally going to be the magic pill that works for you. On my Get Started page, my Start Here page on my website, I have some great resources, books to read, ways that you can educate yourself on sustainable, healthy ways of living that might work for you, because there is no one size fits all, but you can check out those resources there. So I'll make sure to put those in the show notes. But first off, let's talk about figuring out your goals. I'm going to take an educated guess and assume that most of you listening to this, weight loss is what comes to mind immediately when someone says, what are your goals? And maybe it's 5 pounds, maybe it's 50 pounds, but weight loss is always, what are your goals for the new year? Oh, I want to lose some weight. And maybe you think that that's, the number one way that you're going to finally feel healthy is to finally lose X amount of pounds. And if this is a goal you've tried in the past, you've worked on, and you've just always found yourself struggling, maybe you started off really strong and then life got in the way, and you feel like you've been here before, I totally get that. Or maybe you're finding yourself in a new place. Maybe you've had a huge life change. Maybe you're a new mom. Maybe you've gone through a divorce. Maybe you're grieving the loss of a loved one. I've seen all of those things and many, many other reasons. You know, those are just times in our lives where sometimes we overeat and we're emotional, and taking care of ourselves in that way just kind of goes on the back burner. Or maybe we don't eat, and maybe you've lost a lot of weight and you want to start nourishing your body in a better way. So for whatever reason it is, you can take the information that I share on this episode, and hopefully it can help you move forward in a way that you can feel confident and really excited about. One big thing that can be really helpful is, I think that when we're focusing on weight loss, sometimes that immediately brings up feelings of the things that we have to lose out on, the food that we can't eat anymore, and all these ways that we're going to have to feel restricted. And it can just be a really negative thought process to think about losing weight. Now, I'm not saying you need to lose weight at all. I'm only using this to start the episode because I feel like it's the number one thing that I hear from women is, I want to lose weight. But whatever changes you want to make to your eating, for whatever reason you're looking for some ideas on how to eat better, I think it can be really helpful if we focus on the health gains. So weight loss or health gains. Now, I don't know about you, but I know that my body starts screaming at me when I am not taking care of myself. And for me, a huge check engine light that comes on for me is I start getting heartburn. I get heartburn after dinner, when I'm going to bed at night. And this has happened to me every time I've gained, maybe 15 pounds of extra weight, when it's definitely been, fat that I've gained because I'm overeating and I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not working out, and I've just headed in that direction. And I've learned that when I get heartburn, it is my body telling me, Lil, you're not taking care of me. Please do something. And for me, it's a health gain when I lose that weight because my heartburn goes away. So you may or may not have other things, like maybe your knees start to hurt or your back starts to hurt. You get out of breath. Whatever those things are, think of what you can gain by changing your healthy habits. It can be really helpful to always look to ways that we can have an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And sometimes when we're thinking about weight loss and dieting, that automatically creates a scarcity mindset where all we're thinking about is how we're going to be missing out on things and all the things that are going to get taken away from us, instead of looking at the things that we're going to gain by making these really positive changes. So that's just the thought. If it stresses you out and you just, kind of feel, I know I need to lose weight, and you're just automatically thinking it's going to be this really uncomfortable, disappointing and terrible experience, but you've got to do it because you got to lose weight, then changing that mindset and looking to it to be something fun, exciting, that you're going to learn new ways of doing things that really work for you, that can make a huge difference. So there are so many ways and approaches of eating, especially right now. You go on social media, you go on Google, there's a bazillion different people trying to get you started on all different kinds of diets. In our last episode, we talked about some red flags to watch out for. And on this episode, we're going to look for signs, that things may be more sustainable, and most importantly, questions to ask ourselves when we're trying to determine if a program is right for us. In our first episode, we just talked about those basic facts, that it really is all about energy balance, that if weight loss is our goal, then we got to be bringing in less energy and burning off the extra energy from our body. And if we want to be gaining muscle, then we have to be eating more calories and make sure that we are challenging our muscles in a way that's going to create muscle growth. But we play around with our energy balance through our food, and that is primarily the way that people look at weight loss. So there are so many different programs, And I think it's important to keep in mind that, I mean, just right now, one thing that's really big is the carnivore diet. And you also, on the other hand, have the vegan diet. And both of these people are saying, the vegans are saying it's bad to eat meat, it's bad for you, it's going to give you heart disease, it's going to kill you. The carnivore diet people are telling you eating plants is bad, it's going to kill you. And at the end of the day, I think we really need to put our thinking caps on and have a reasonable approach to how we approach food. And anytime we hear these extreme views, it's just nonsense. Tune them out and look towards eating in a way that is balanced and nourishing and includes all foods. So we're going to start off with some questions to ask ourselves and how this can, fit into choosing the right way of eating, because there are also, in addition to I hope I'm making sense here. Well, let me just take a breath. Okay, there are ways of eating out there that are extreme. I'm not saying that being vegan is extreme. I know you can absolutely be healthy being vegan. I think carnivore is very extreme, but you can have these two things that are on the end of the spectrum. And then somewhere in the middle, you are going to find different ways that you can have a balanced approach to eating. You can enjoy all foods. You can be full and satisfied. And you can absolutely create a calorie deficit that will then lead to weight loss if that's your goal. Or you can maintain where you are, or you can work on some body recomposition, gain muscle, lose fat, all of those things in a healthy and sustainable way. And I need you to know that that is totally possible, and we don't have to be looking to these extremes. So the questions that I'm going to share with you are ways to help you determine if the level of extremeness is something that you do want to add into your life, or do you want to approach things in a way that is more going to fit into your life and you're just making healthier choices. So I hope that makes sense. So number one, when you're looking at a nutrition plan, asking yourself, does this program include all foods, or is there a list of approved foods and a list of foods to avoid? An example of this would be the paleo diet, where, maybe they let you eat sweet potatoes, but they don't let you eat rice. And they're just kind of this complicated, yes, this is good, this is bad, and the only way to stick to it is to stick to the approved food list. Is that a way that you want to live your life? Are you going to feel bad every time you want some fried rice or you want to eat some sushi and those are not quote unquote paleo approved? So how does that feel for you? Are all foods included in this nutrition plan? Is there going to be space for you to enjoy those little treats that you have in your life that you really enjoy? Obviously, you have to find a way to balance things so that you can reach your goals. But are you going to be completely restricting certain foods out of your life? Are you going to be forced to follow specific food ingredients, recipes, things like that? I was on a diet for a very long time. I didn't think it was a diet. And now I realize how toxic it actually was, but it came with all these cookbooks. And if I was going to make a chicken recipe, then it was a such and such approved chicken recipe rather than just, making chicken and not overthinking it. And I was buying sort of these different ingredients that now I look back on it, I'm like, it's kind of unnecessary. Like, you don't have to buy palm sugar. Like, you can just buy cane sugar. It doesn't really matter. But things like that, is it going to overcomplicate your life in that way and just make you feel very restricted that you have to follow this exact plan? Is this plan flexible? Like, are you going to be able to go out to dinner with your friends, go on vacation? Or is it an all or nothing? Like, if you're going off plan, are you going to feel guilty about it? Are you going to be shamed, by the creator of the program that you weren't able to stick to it, even though they're saying it's so easy to stick to? Is there flexibility there? Are you going to be able to balance those enjoyable moments in your life where food is available and find ways that you can stay on track? Or are you so dependent on this extreme way of eating that going to a regular restaurant, you wouldn't even be able to find something, you're going to be worrying that the salad dressing has certain ingredients in it that is bad for you. So is this plan flexible enough for your life? Number 3, will I be able to independently follow this plan, or are you going to be reliant on food or supplements, meals, coaching, what have you? Like, do they want you to be dependent on them for the entire time that you're on this diet? Or can you educate yourself, learn how things work, and then go off and do it on your own and hold yourself accountable and take ownership of it? You know, how dependent are you going to be on the creators of the diet in order to be successful? And if it's something where they're saying that you absolutely have to be plugged into their system, you know, for the rest of your life, then that's probably not going to be super sustainable. Also, really important to think about your budget and how much you're spending on food and whether or not you're going to be able to purchase the supplies that they encourage you to get. Is this plan going to let you just go to the grocery store and buy some fruits, veggies, lean meats, eggs, maybe some canned veggies, you know, whatever fits in your budget? Are you going to be able to follow this plan? Or are they, again, you have to buy certain supplements? They're telling you have to buy all organic or gluten-free or dairy-free or whatever. Does it just seem, you know, a little bit out of the scope of what sounds like a reasonable way to eat? If it just sounds really complicated, maybe the ingredients and the different foods are not something that you can find in your just normal everyday grocery store, then that probably is something that might not be super sustainable. Another thing to think about is addressing your own relationship with food and your mental health, you know, before you even start thinking about changing your nutrition. If you have underlying issues and you're not working on them and they're just going to keep coming up for you and sabotaging your efforts to live a little bit healthier, then maybe you need to ask yourself, should I work on these things and create a foundation, you know, where I feel confident? And absolutely, I totally believe working out, eating healthier goes hand in hand with feeling good about yourself. But do you need to look at some things, and is it something that needs to be addressed before you actually start to take steps towards, you know, changing your habits? Number 6, would it make more sense for you to slow down and educate yourself and really learn about different sustainable ways of eating? Maybe you want to look at tracking your macros. Maybe you want to look at high volume, low calorie eating. And these are all things, when you go to the Start Here page on my blog, I have some great resources for you to look at. Are these things you maybe want to look into, the more sustainable ways of creating that calorie deficit? And educate yourself before you actually start diving in with both feet, and maybe just making some small changes here and there. Maybe just changing what you eat for breakfast, maybe adding in a protein shake and taking things one step at a time versus jumping in with both feet, overwhelming yourself, and then just feeling like you can't keep up with it. So do you need to slow down before you speed up? Number 7, is this just a fad? When you're looking at the different nutrition plans available, what screams at you that it's just a fad? I know that there's been all kinds of fads over the years. I've seen everything from everything was low fat in the 90s. When I was in college, it was Snackwells, and they created that Olean fake fat for potato chips and Doritos that actually made you poop your pants. So that fad didn't last too long. Then it was Atkins and the Zone diet. And more recently, that stuff has turned into keto is the latest low carb craze, although I feel like that's kind of fading out. And then intermittent fasting. And then now I see there's a more extreme version of intermittent fasting where you're supposedly supposed to eat one meal a day, which, oh my gosh, I would be so cranky if I did that. But again, these are all ways of getting you in that calorie deficit. And ask yourself, is this just the latest fad? Or is this a tried and true method where I'm going to be full and satisfied and I'm going to be able to do it today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, 6 years from now? Does it sound like it's sustainable for me? So that's where we have to put on, again, our thinking cap when we're looking at these options and just saying to ourselves, does this sound right? Or does this just seem like the latest trend that, people are trying to hop on? We are all complex human beings with unique bodies, feelings, and daily lives. So let's take ownership and start steering our own ship instead of just hopping from the latest thing to the latest thing that may or may not work for us. And like I said, I have some great resources for you. If you're someone that is looking to educate yourself a little bit more on sustainable ways of eating, you can just go right to the Start Here page on my website, and I will make sure to put that in my show notes. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Or I guess you'll hear me next time. I guess that's what I meant to say. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.